Thanks for watching The Third Decision. My name is Matt Ramsey. I'm the Communication Director of Alumni Engagement. I'm here with Andrew Breasure. Andrew, you want to introduce yourself?
Like Matt said, my name's Andrew Breasure. I went to North Carolina State, so I am a member of the Tall Chapter, or at least graduated member of the Tall Chapter. Right now, I work for Truist Sports Entertainment as a wealth advisor associate. And I currently still sit on the board of our housing corporation for the Tall Chapter and find some time to get engaged with fraternity when possible.
Yeah. Um, Andrew's a guy who's done a lot for Pi Kappa and has a wealth of experience as an undergrad, and then also as an alumni. And so today, the whole focus of our conversation is really talking about how you can market your fraternity experience as a graduating senior, preparing you for life as a young professional. So you kind of hit on a few highlights from your Pi Kappa resume, but walk me through like undergrad specifically. What was the kind of key things that you did as an undergraduate member?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely had more of a unique, I guess, fraternity experience. I was fortunate enough to get involved in a number of different things, both within my chapter and in Greek life as a whole. So, coming to NC State's campus, truthfully, Greek life wasn't on my radar. My father was a founding father of the Zeta Tau chapter of Pi Kappa Phi. So, all of his stories from college were largely about the fraternity, despite also being a college baseball player. But I remember distinctly my dad letting me know, hey, I think Pi Cap's on NC State's campus. I turned to a buddy of mine and he says, oh, actually they got removed from campus a few years ago. So my one sliver of, hey, maybe I'll do the whole Pi Cap thing or fraternity thing was seemingly out the door. It was only a few days later where I got an email from headquarters saying, "Hey, we got an opportunity to refound Pi Cap at NC State," and talked to my dad about it. And that's kind of off to the races. So I was on that first exec board as secretary and was able to learn a lot. And before I transitioned into the president of our chapter, and our chapter really took off. We kind of had that first year to get our feet under us, and we were able to win tons of awards, both locally and nationally, as our first year as officially chartered chapter of Pi Kappa Phi. And after chapter president, I thought, I was in leadership for two years. At NC State, maybe I need to, calm down a little bit and try to just, enjoy things as a general member. Well, I got a call from our Greek Life office and asking for me to be the IFC president. So that dream was short-lived. I answered the call and decided to be the president of the IFC, and that opened up more doors with the fraternity from a national perspective. I served on our Council of Archons as the chair. I served as a student representative on the national council. And also got to do things with the ability experience, such as Journey of Hope as a crew member. So got to do a lot with the fraternity. Got to get my chapter recognized for a lot of cool things, and hopefully they're still doing a lot of good stuff. In fact, I know they are. So that's a little bit about my resume and some of the experience I had. And I'm fortunate enough to be recognized for some things on the personal side, but at the end of the day, one of my greatest joys was watching our fraternity really be successful and achieve a number of different things.
Yeah. I mean, and you've done just about everything, right? And so I think you've got a really unique perspective on how you translate a fraternity experience into the professional world. And there's countless of lessons you learn in chapter leadership. And as you get exposed to IFC, working with different chapters, different organizations, of course, spending time on the council and as the representative to the board, a lot of just really great experiences that I'm sure have helped you more ways than you can really count as a young professional. So, what do you think you were able to leverage the most from your fraternity experience and use that to kind of launch you into your career?
I mean, it's hard to argue what I couldn't. I think everything that I did, both as just a member of the fraternity and in leadership, was easily leveraged, right? I had a story for every single behavioral question that could have ever been asked in the interview, right? So tell me about a time where you worked with a team. I was able to talk about committees, putting together projects, different events. Tell me about a time where you worked with people who had different opinions than you. About every single executive board I've ever been on, or at least I've ever witnessed, has a multitude of different opinions, right? So I was easily able to answer questions like that. Tell me about a time when you failed. My very first time applying for the Council of Archons, I didn't get the gig, right? So I was able to talk about how, hey, I came up short there. I was not recognized, but I applied again the next year with more experience as an Archon and was able to get my foot in the door. Tell me about a time where you succeeded. I talked about some of the awards that our fraternity won and some of the times where, things weren't looking too good and we had to solve a problem and end up coming up on top. Tell me about a time where you served the community easily. We're able to talk about War of the Roses and all the money that we raised on our campus and how it became a staple event for both Greek life members and non-Greek life members, or times where I got to do the Journey of Hope and serve communities outside of NC State and outside of North Carolina. So any experience or any question that was ever thrown at me, I had an answer directly from my time in the fraternity. And so I tell everyone, whether you're a general member or whether you're in leadership, join a fraternity. It exposes you to so much that you're able to leverage in your interviews. And a lot of people think, man, like, how are recruiters or how are hiring managers going to react seeing, ex fraternity letters, on my resume? Oftentimes, they tend to like it quite a bit. In fact, all the interviews that I've done, being affiliated with the bank, I would say 70 to 80% of the applicants that come across my desks are all members of Greek organizations at different schools. Haven't come across a Pi Cap yet, but I'll be sure to share my experiences when I do.
Yeah. And I mean, I think you bring up a great point, like having the ability to tap into your experiences to answer those hard questions. It goes a really long way. And, you know, you hit the nail on the head when dealing with difficult people. We've had those experiences in our chapter experience, dealing with failure, with success, how you rise up to those challenges. What kind of things were you putting on your resume when you were first applying? Like, how did you kind of translate your leadership experience to that piece of paper?
Yeah, it's difficult, right? Because I think, some people, look at the fraternity experience and you're like, how do I explain this extremely complex thing that I'm doing while I'm in college and putting it, like you said, on a piece of paper? It is difficult, like I said before, but essentially you write out your positions, you write out the things that you're exposed to, and you get really into the nitty-gritty of what you've done, right? I think a lot of people say, oh, I was a member of Pi Kappa Phi, for example, and that's the extent that they put on their resume. That's not going to cut it. Write about the committees you're involved in and make sure you lead each line item with an action or with a verb. So, facilitated chapter meetings or conducted budget analysis. Talk about the times where you worked on a finance project and you're trying to raise money as a chapter and how you created a savings goal and how you reallocated funds. All of that goes a long way. And keep in mind, like you're going to be doing that in your professional world. So people don't realize that everything that goes into fraternity, and I'm sure we'll get into this later, is much like running a business. Talk about your experiences. Even if you were not in a leadership role, get involved in committees because those experiences while on your committee, you're working to put a product out there, whether it is a philanthropy event, a social event, or just a brotherhood event. You're putting a product out there that the members of your fraternity who happen to be, employees of a business, but also, stakeholders, right? They buy that product, and if you don't have a good product, your membership's going to be down, and you're not going to have money through dues.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think when we look at general membership, like even the general member has been involved in planning, executing
Hmm.
different things. And so there's a lot of ways where you can translate that real world experience. It's like you said, a fraternity experience is professional experience. It's just in a different realm. And every job wants you to have some type of experience coming in. And so combined with internships and other things you're doing, it really goes a long way to be able to translate what you've done as a leader or a member in a chapter to your resume and into your interview conversations. Uh, so kind of translating that experience, how have you used that experience to help you get a foothold in your career? Like what lessons have you carried with you into your role now?
Every single bit of it. As I said before, I think you're going to see a common theme. It's almost everything that Pi Kappa has exposed me to or has given me has directly translated in some way. Specifically, I can think of a number of things with the fraternity. One is just being able to sell myself. I don't think it's taught enough in college, right? How to create your own identity, how to sell yourself, how to show, the people around you or the people that you even just work with who you are as a person. And I think early on, like I had to sell myself to a bunch of strangers. Hey, vote this guy to be the secretary of a brand new fraternity. Oh, by the way, none of us know what we're doing yet, right? So I had to sell people on that right off the bat. I could think maybe seven people of the 40 people who voted probably knew my name. So that was certainly an adjustment for well. And, also selling the fraternity to other people, right? I think people, forget that, when you're starting a fraternity and guys are looking to join a Greek organization, they look around, they see, this organization over here has 100 members, or this organization over here has these great events that all of campus shows up to see, or this organization over here, man, I see those letters everywhere. They must mean something. I was trying to convince someone to join an organization that did not have an identity yet outside of the national identity, right? That didn't have a very strong membership, wasn't even up to the campus average yet, didn't really have a plan for events or what the fraternity was going to look like. I had to sell people on that. And it has made my job being, while I am in wealth management, it's still partially a sales job, right? I'm selling my abilities and my team's abilities to professional athletes and entertainers, right? I'm convincing them that they have access to all the resources in the world, but I'm telling them that my group can do the best by them. So just being able to market my personal business and market myself as a professional. I mean, that all directly came from my experience with the fraternity. I started with an organization that, what we felt was nothing at one point, and it grew into the biggest organization on NC State's campus and in the state of North Carolina. So again, every little bit, and just selling myself, finding my identity certainly translates to professional experience. Now, maybe something on more the technical side of things, right? I think we touched on this earlier. Everything went from managing a budget, using Excel, sending out emails, or organizing meetings, being able to communicate and conduct myself as a professional. Because oftentimes, as some of people listening to this know, I mean, you're working with FSL staff, leadership. Sometimes you get to interact with campus leadership and leadership across other organizations. You have to learn how to conduct yourself as a professional, and you'd be surprised of how many students enter the workforce, maybe not having any organizational experience in college, Greek or not, just not really having the skills to interact or just work in a professional setting. So again, this is going to be a common theme throughout our discussion, but every little thing that I've gotten exposed to in fraternity has somewhat translated into my professional experience.
Yeah, I mean, that confidence aspect of what you gain from being exposed to different things, and just knowing how to handle yourself and conduct yourself is definitely a huge component. Really, the last kind of thing we've touched on this here and there, and you've given great nuggets of advice. But if you had to give like a final piece of advice to graduating seniors looking to market their fraternity experience as they enter the professional world, what would that advice be?
Well, I think there's two sides to this, right? I think there's a route that you take when you first join, and I do want to touch on that, and maybe it won't be for the graduating senior just yet, but it's a point that hopefully they can pass on to a younger brother in the fraternity, or maybe they say they know someone who's about to join a Greek organization. And what I say is, get involved early. I think people sometimes they do join an organization of any kind, and they kind of coast through the motions, show up to things they find interesting, but regardless of what the event is, show up, get involved, get your hands dirty, sign up to plan certain things, sign up to join committees. If you get the opportunity, join leadership and care about the role that you're given. So whether it's a big role, a small role, or no role at all, care about your experience and contribute what you can to it, because your experience is what you make it. And it is going to be the thing that you're able to talk about in job interviews and when you're connecting and networking with other people, both, in the professional setting and a personal setting, right? Um, and then for those who are, graduating and trying to figure out, how do I sell this to someone? Well, look back on your experience. What are the things that kept you around for all 4 years of your college experience? Dues aren't cheap. I know that much. I mean, that money could have been going to a lot of other things, and you chose every single semester to allocate it to your fraternity experience. What were the things that you found special? What were the things that you engaged in where you made a difference on your campus, right? I think any interviewer or hiring manager is going to know that, yeah, you had a great social experience, right? But what are the things you did to make a difference in the people around you, right? The difference in your little brother. What did your big have an impact on you? What did he do to make your experience better? What did you do to make your campus better? What did you do to impact your chapter advisor? Other members of the college community that you were a part of. You want to be able to sell the positive impact that you made, not the negative stuff. And I hope for a lot of you, as you transition out, you look back and you say, hey, I made my fraternity better than when I found it, and I made my campus better than when I found it. And hopefully your chapter was known for the right things and had a great reputation. And if that's the case, your fraternity is going to be really easy to sell, especially if you've been recognized either personally or as an organization by whether it by the college or by the national headquarters. So talk about the good things, share the positive impact that the organization had on you and other people, and you will have no problem marketing your experience.
Yeah. And one kind of final bit. I mean, we touched on those guys who have had leadership experience, and when we look to folks who are, they've been on a committee, they've been an involved member. What are kind of those next steps? How can they continue to utilize that experience? I know you touched on you are involved with your housing corporation, you've volunteered for the fraternity. What benefit does that have on setting yourself up as you continue into your career?
So you have to know, as you're going through your life, think about it when you're younger, right? You look up to your parents who, they know everything, right? And then, you get a little bit older, you get a little more confident in yourself, you start turning to teachers and coaches, right? Then you get a little bit older, and then it's your friends that are older who may have, experienced a similar thing that you have, or it's your chapter advisor in your chapter, or it's a professor, or it's a boss at work, right? You're always looking up to someone asking them, hey, how do I navigate this situation? Well, guess what? There are people in college right now that need someone to ask those questions to. And your greatest gift, especially right out of college, unfortunately, I know we all want to say we are wealthy beyond our wildest imagination. That just simply is not the case, right? Your greatest asset you can provide is your time and your knowledge. And so, whether it is at a professional capacity, with the fraternity, get involved, share what you know about your college experience. What I choose to do is I choose to go back and sit on the housing corporation board, a corporation that I started as a senior. I sit in and give my a piece of advice to the president of it now and to general members of my chapter. I go back and facilitate Pi Kappa College. I had two. I'm unique. I had two different experiences on an executive board, and I guess I technically had experience at the national level and at the school level. So I'm able to share some of my experiences, some of the things that hey, hand up, I completely failed at and maybe dropped the ball at, and I can say, hey, here's something that I did really well and I executed well, and here's how it paid off for the people who counted on me to deliver. So volunteer your time, get involved. It's a great way to meet other Pi Caps you haven't come across with, and hey, at the very least, it makes you feel good for giving back, and you learn a lot in your experiences, and I think it's always a good opportunity to make a positive impact on someone's life because you never know the lives that you might change. You might be looking at the next president of the United States, and if it wasn't for you encouraging him to maybe run for president next year, he may have given up on all that president stuff altogether. So that's all I got to really say about that. Get involved, find your communities, and whether it's with PICAP or something else, try to give back because it's going to really really do dividends down the road.
Yeah, and it, continues to help you develop into your professional self. Like as a young
Yeah.
professional, taking that time really just helps you to continue to learn and to gain experience. But I think we've covered a lot of the big things and the key ways that you can market your fraternity experience and your Pi Kappa Phi experience as you step into young professional life. Thank you for taking the time to chat. I know that all of our members are going to really benefit from the advice and guidance that you've given.
Hey, I'm happy to be here, and I know this goes without saying, but anyone who wants to connect with me one on one and ask some questions, I'm more than happy to take the time. PyCap has done a lot for me. It definitely changed my life, and I don't think I'd be where I am today if it wasn't for the organization. So, anytime that I can give back and hopefully give someone else a positive experience as well, I'm more than happy to do so.